Right, okay. So hi. Thank you for meeting with us today, Wayne. If I just introduce myself quickly, so I'm Philippa Michael. I'm working with Empower My Voice as a volunteer. So building up some resources for Black and minority ethnic children and professionals to support growth, really, to support the project. And I have recently met with Wayne. So Wayne, could you introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, my name is Wayne Reid. I work for the British Association of Social Workers, also known as BASW. I am a social worker, but I also have the role of professional officer at BASW, which is a national role. I work across different social work sort of specialisms, including mental health, criminal justice, but I'm also involved in anti-racism in social work, and I lead on that within BASW.
Okay, so a very busy man then.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Yeah. So are you working as a full-time social worker as well as all those other hats, or part-time?
No, what my role is my organisation supports social workers and the profession, but we don't actually undertake the frontline task of social work anymore. Many of us, who are social workers within BASW have done those roles,
Yeah.
but we now undertake sort of national and kind of UK-wide roles in terms of policy, practice, and education, and so on.
Okay. Thank you. That's brilliant. So in terms of your social work experience, which sounds really, really wide, has it been like children as well as adults?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it has. Yeah. I began my career working for a private fostering agency in a kind of office role. I was sort of very young, and that was my introduction to social care, really, sort of working for an agency that placed children with families. And then I moved into different roles where I then managed to get more frontline experience as what's called a support worker or an unqualified worker. And I did that in youth offending, and then went on to study and become a social worker, and then kind of undertake different qualified roles as well. So yeah, the kind of role that I have at BASW now is sort of detached from that somewhat, and I'm supporting people who do that across the country in my
Yeah.
role. Yeah.
Okay. So how long have you been in your current role for?
I've been in my current role for coming up to 4 years, which I
Okay.
have to smile when I say that because it really has flown, although it's been intensive, especially in the last 12 months and some of the work I've been involved in. But yeah, 4 years now.
Right, okay. So are you, I mean, I've attended some of your recent training, which excuse me, which you were delivering alongside Islington Council, anti-racism and social work training, because I'm a qualified social worker as well. And, I really did find it very inspirational, to be fair. I thought it was
Well, thank
brilliant.
you. Thanks very much.
Really, really good training. And I think what you sort of probably helped me realize, or what I've come to realize about how you work, is that you're very networked, aren't you? You're part of, you've got a lot of resources, and you're sort of very active. So
I am, yeah, I suppose I am active, and I'm active because of, like I say, the kind of uniqueness of the role that I've mentioned that I do at BASW. Of course, if I was in frontline practice like I have been in other roles, I probably just wouldn't have the time.
yeah,
And to be quite honest, when I was in those roles, I kind of didn't understand the full picture. I was that kind of focused on, home visits, assessments, meetings, and so on, and all the daily things that social workers do and the pressures of the role, that I didn't really get a sense of the picture nationally and what some of the drivers were, etc. And it's only through really working at BASW and having more of a national perspective on things
yeah,
and understanding things, being schooled by my colleagues, it's made me realise that, oh, right, okay, this is what actually influences things in everyday practice for social workers. So yeah, that's very much my experience.
brilliant. I think one of the things that I noticed, that you did refer to in the training, was that there isn't anti-discriminatory practice and anti-oppressive practice isn't always part of the social work training curriculum anymore. and that's something that I hadn't really realised, because when I did my training it was quite a big emphasis at the time for meeting needs of different communities, and at some stage that's then been removed from the agenda, which is, you know, a real shame, because it's almost like a step back. So kind of, I guess some of your work now is reinstating that, but in a bit of a new world, because obviously I can see your roles gain momentum since the George Floyd murder, and the Black Lives Matter agenda has been more in the forefront, really. But it was quite I suppose, like, almost shocking to me that actually people who work with disadvantaged people aren't having to consider race and racism as part of a curriculum.
Yeah. And, you know, some of what you asked in your last question about activism and so on, and I talked about how now, because of my perspective, I kind of feel more able and, you know, I've got the time and space really to do that. So, yeah, in terms of some of those inequalities that exist within social work, which you kind of wouldn't expect in a profession like this, combining that with the activism that I feel in relation to anti-racism, but also kind of inequality more broadly, it's really just been a case of the two things combining in some ways. They just aligned, and yeah, I suppose I always say I feel fortunate really to be able to be in a position where I can sort of have my passion every day, kind of in some way. I feel like I'm doing what I can, you know, for the cause. And although, you know, I'm probably seen as Mr. Anti-Racism, or some people have joked and said Malcolm X of social work, which, you know, I kind of take two ways. Yeah, it kind of, I do consider myself fortunate to be able to do that. It has been therapeutic, and I just hope that, you know, we can continue to keep the movement going, really, that you've described.
Yeah, I think it's really, really important. And I think, you know, it's what you've said about sort of Malcolm X, a social worker, maybe, you know, people's opinions. I think when you are in that kind of position and you're trying to achieve change, you know, you will get support, and you'll also get criticism, and you'll also get joke. You know, it's hard, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
You know, you've got to keep going, but you know, you're going to face.
It is a challenge, and like you say, I sort of think to myself, I can't please all of the people all of the time. And I know that just the very nature of anti-racism is contentious in the way that, you know, Black Lives Matter as a slogan is contentious for people, and the way that they interpret that. I know there's going to be, you know, backlash from some quarters. I suppose the thing is, I just think, you know, I have to be authentic to myself. I sort of try to wear my heart on my sleeve, which is probably a stereotypical Yorkshire way of going about things, which is where I'm from. But I just try to wear my heart on my sleeve so people know where they are with me. I kind of know where I am with myself.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I know it all, but, you know, I'll just give an honest account of what I think and why, you know, and I'm happy to have a kind of debate on that if necessary. But yeah, certainly can't please everyone all the time.
That's right. You've just got to be focused, haven't you? I suppose, and true to yourself. I guess that's all we can do.
Yeah.